Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, I am excited to welcome Jonathan into the show. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hi, how are you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing good. Doing good.
Nice.
Cannot, alive, living, doing that
Yes,
thing.
all the things.
Yes. Why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I love this question because I love to lead with my humanity first. I do all kinds of cool things that I love and I'm proud about, but like the most important things that have shaped who I am is that I'm a husband, a brother, and a son. From originally from San Diego, California, but now live in LA, in Los Angeles, and I truly love where I live, love the diversity, love the people around me,
Mhm.
love my family, and they've kind of like shaped a lot of like why I do what I do. Just raised by a single mother who raised three boys. I'm the oldest of three, and just like taught us how to hustle, taught us how to treat people well,
Mhm.
and like always like want the best for other people. And so
Mhm.
like I think that these are like lessons that have like infused themselves in literally in who I am. And so what I do for work is like three lanes of passion is that I'm a podcast host myself, a show called Highly Visible and a Little Misunderstood, where we have nuanced conversations about big complex things. And then I'm also a career transition coach, which is my passion. I love to support people in their transitions in their careers,
Mhm.
particularly for Black millennials who want to experience career joy, which we'll
Mhm.
dive into. And then I'm an organizational psychologist, which I do like development trainings, facilitations, and curriculum
Mhm.
development. So really excited to chat with you. And that's a little bit about me.
I love it. First of all, I love that you led with, who you are as a human. And
Yeah.
first of all, I love San Diego. So,
Yeah.
um, you love San Diego, but I mean, you're not too far away, but I mean,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like it is, I live on the East Coast and I live in Atlanta, but it is
Got you.
definitely like a dream of mine before I leave this world, this earth to get to the West Coast.
Yes. I mean, it's wild because like people will go like I talk to people and I'm like, yeah, I'm from San Diego. Like I grew up in a travel destination and now I live in Orange County and I spent like 11 years, or excuse me, I live in LA County. I spent
Uh-huh.
11 years in Orange County. So I've lived in like these travel destinations. So I
Right.
recognize the privilege that I have, especially with weather, even though it's raining outside right now, but I recognize, trust, I get
No,
it.
yes, it's just such I remember going there in May, and the weather was just so nice. Like,
Mm,
and leaving Atlanta, it was humid and it was
yep.
already like scorching hot, but then going to San Diego and we went there for like a family trip and my nephew, we were taking him, went to like the Legoland.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and it was just, and we had like 3 lovely days there where it was just like we weren't out there like burning up. So just a
Hmm.
side note, y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody listening now, you know that Tyra's ultimate goal is to get to the West Coast. Now, my husband would beg to differ.
I bet.
My other half wants to go to Florida, and I'm like, no, we are not going to Florida.
Oh Lord, Isn't that more human?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes, but
Lord.
he's okay. He's okay with that. Like, that summer life he's all about. I am like, no, I do not want to be hot. Please don't make me hot. So
That's
anyhow,
funny. That's funny.
but but I am, as you mentioned, you are a one of your roles is a career transition coach. And
Mhm,
it is definitely the thing that we connected on.
mhm,
Because as I mentioned here a lot, that I was doing some episodes, a mini series on career, about career, different things in your career. And I think it's so important to talk about our careers. And
mhm.
especially, I know that you do support and work with millennial African Americans. So
Mhm,
I think that's really cool. And I'm definitely excited to dive into that because I do think we have, as African American people, we have a very unique,
mhm.
path, to others. So
Yeah.
let's first talk about career transition coaching and what
Yep.
that is.
Absolutely. So career transition coaching, I like to broaden it out a little bit because I have people who come to me who, I want to start a business or
Mhm.
um I want to go to I want to literally completely change careers. I want to
Mhm.
like change industries, different things like that. And so when I talk about career transition, I'm really ultimately talking about um, a point in your career journey, whether
Mhm.
in restaurant area, higher ed, nonprofit, tech, whatever you're doing, is that next part of your journey, that next phase, is you're stepping into that fully who you want to be.
Mhm.
That next place that you're at is like aligned with who you are, that your values are understood, that you're making these
Yes.
decisions and making moves that are best for you, that are best for your
Mhm.
family, that are best for the person that you want to be, because we're constantly
Yes.
becoming. And so that's how I really define career transition. It's really an intentional and purposeful transition to the next phase of your work, career, and all that.
I love that. I absolutely love that because I feel like so many times people are transitioning because they're tired and they're
Hmm.
burnout. But
Yep.
when you make an intentional and I say that because I mean I too have transitioned in my career because I was like, I can't do this no more. I'm
Same,
almost
same.
about to slap somebody. And
Yes, same.
but I need every time my hand would go up, I was like, oh, but I need the money.
Yes, yep,
so
yep,
so
yep,
sometimes you just leave because you just have to get out.
yep.
But I love this intentional and being purposeful because I feel like that more than anything right now is what people are looking for. Like
Mhm,
people want to be walking in their purpose
mhm,
and they want something, they want to have impact. Like they want to do things that matter in the world, like
mhm.
things that make the world a better place.
Yeah,
Not just, I mean, yes, you need to earn a living. Yes, I understand all those things, but I feel like more or less now, like we are generations of people who just want to like, I want to leave this world better than the way I found it.
yep, yep. I so agree with that. Like, and that goes back to what I was saying. Like, and maybe you are familiar with this or listeners are as well, but like my mama raised us in a way where she said, like you leave something just better than you left it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like when I go into a space and, you know, I go into a job, like I just even see my mom still doing this. Like
Hmm.
she's like, I'm not done here yet. Like I need to at least make sure that the way
Hmm.
I came and saw this, that like it is better. And I think that
Yes.
that I've lived my life that way.
Hmm.
And like I am continuously meeting people that want to do that. That like I think
Yes.
it's something happened to all of us, like not just the collective grief that we felt during the pandemic, but like we've
Right.
had space to be
Hmm.
and rethink and evaluate like what is
Yes.
important to us. And I
Exactly.
think just showing up at a place, not connecting with anybody, not being seen, not being
Yes.
heard, just going through the motions. It's like, what am I doing for 40, 50, 60 hours of my week?
Yes.
you know?
I yes. Oh my God. Yes to all of those things because I almost feel like, and I would tell people this all the time, if you didn't come out of 2020 like different in some way.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe you should turn around and go back and experience it again. But I
Hmm.
know for me personally, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. There were
Yeah.
things that I was just unwilling to, I'm not going to tolerate. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this on the job. And I feel
Yep.
like people are still in that. Like
Yep.
I mean, I think I told somebody maybe about a week ago, I was like, oh, I was deeply changed by the
Mm.
pandemic and it's still with me. There are still things that I will not do today because I know better. I can do
Mm.
better. I
Mm.
deserve better.
Hmm.
And I think like that is happening in the career space. I know people are constantly talking about, well, it was an employees market, but now it's back. No, I think the
No.
employees still hold all the cards and they get to choose because we now know we deserve better.
Yes, yes. I,
So
I think that's such a really good point, Kyra, because it's true. I think what what we're seeing right now in the job market is that like yes, tech is actually laying a lot of people off, and like I'm
mhm,
not going to minimize the impact that that's having on literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. Like I
mhm,
recognize
mhm,
that, but there are so many like there is like a collective power, right? Simultaneously,
mhm,
while all of these layoffs are happening in the tech industry, there was how many strikes that happened, right? We had the
Mhm.
actors strike, we had the writers strike,
Mhm.
we
And
had the
the
automotive
automotive.
strike,
Mhm.
we had
Yeah.
multiple strikes that happened over the course of like this past summer last year,
Mhm.
right? And there was movement that happened there, right? And there's
Mhm.
current movements for unionization. So for us to like say like, oh, like the companies are taking back their power, yeah, but it's like they're trying to in like very aggressive and
Mhm.
underhanded ways.
Mhm.
And collectively as employees, collectively as like if we come together, not just as individuals, but as like a
Mhm.
collective, not just unionizing, but like, how much are you making? Like pay transparency, you know what I'm saying? Like that
Right.
actually tears down the ability for companies,
Yep.
employers that are less ethical or immoral,
Mhm.
to keep us separated. So that's just such a good point because you're absolutely right. Like employees have a lot more
Mhm.
power and influence than we've been told
Yes.
that we have.
Exactly. So, but this is also too why people need someone like a career transition coach.
Mm.
So, if someone's out there and they're like, um, am I ready for that? Tell what types of clients do you work with and how does someone know that they're ready?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. I was actually writing about this the other day.
Mhm.
I think they're the type of clients that I work with. It you don't need help writing a resume, even though I can't help with that.
Mhm.
You don't need like help like making your LinkedIn look all good. Like you got that. I work
Mhm.
with people who literally have all these hopes and dreams and ideas and desires
Mhm.
um and they go to work and like all of a sudden their like energy is zero. Like they're drained. Like
Mhm.
they're good at what they do, but they're just like, why am I continuously doing this thing? Like,
Yeah.
is this thing worth the money? And like that
Mhm.
question, that like wondering, there's something
Mhm.
there. And
Mhm.
so the question that oftentimes people come to me with is that I don't know what that thing is. I don't know what I'm feeling that feels off, but I know it needs to
Mhm.
change in this
Yeah.
next season of my career. And so
Yeah.
those are the people that I work with because it's like
Yeah.
there's barriers that exist there,
Mhm.
whether it be a belief in yourself, or lack of belief in yourself, whether you're carrying some past trauma, work traumas,
Mhm.
whether you are. I've worked with actually a good amount of second generation kids too who like feel the weight
Mhm.
of their parents
Yeah.
on their career decisions of just like how much their parents gave up as far as like immigrating to the States and everything like that. I've
Mhm.
also worked with folks who are like first gen, because I'm first gen in corporate world, first gen in college, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And so there's so many expectations of ways of navigating
Mhm.
that like we've told success is supposed to be this way and we've finally gotten here and success is
Yes.
empty. You don't
And
it's
you're
not
like,
it's not like this is it, like,
right, yeah.
yeah.
This is what
So
I was waiting for? Oh, okay.
yeah, so like those are the kinds of people that I work with. And how do you
Mhm.
know that you're ready? Is it's in that same piece. Is that if you're going on a Sunday night and you're getting those Sunday scaries, like that's not a normal way to
Right.
navigate. Like right, like on Sunday night when you're like dreading going to work, or you have it's Monday morning, you're getting up and all of a sudden you just feel like anxious or uneven or like
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
just cussing in your head, just like, dang, I gotta work. Like you already in a bad mood heading to work.
Right, yeah.
That's actually not normal for you to feel all of those
Yeah.
things, like
It's
those
not,
intense
yeah.
emotions, heading into work, right? Like it is actually incredibly possible for you to experience like joy heading into
Mhm.
your job.
Yeah.
And so like if I would say if you are ready to experience that, like then you absolutely are ready for coaching. And I can support with
Mhm.
that. Or any other coach can support with that if you find a good one.
I love that. First of all, I love, that you said, it's the people with hopes and dreams.
Mm,
It's like people who are dreaming bigger and
yes.
wanting more, and I think that is so important because there were a lot you said a lot, Jonathan. There's a
Yeah.
lot to there was a lot of good stuff to unpack there because as you talk about, like, either the first generation or the second generation, right? Like, I am, like, in my family, like, first gen, I was the first
Mm,
one to go to college, first one really in the corporate, like, space of the my family.
mm,
And so, a lot of times, but I'm also like a person, like I dream big. Like,
Yes.
I mean, it's like if it's up there, like it's in the, I'm always shooting for the moon, right?
Mm.
It's like when your parents are like, I mean, but that means you're gonna have like a regular job, right?
Yeah.
And it, like
Yes.
that means you're gonna have like an everyday job that pays your
Yeah.
bills, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, like right now, but like
Yeah.
the plan is not to do that forever. And you can see the immediate horror on either on
Yes.
their face or you can hear it in their voice that it's like, are you sure? And it's
Yes.
like, and so it can be tough. I can imagine it can be tough for people to carry that because it's
Mm.
almost like a burden, almost
Yes. Yeah.
because you don't want to let somebody down. You
Mm.
want to make sure that, your parent, but at the same time, you can't put a cover on that dream
Yeah.
because you're in the background, like I'm in the background, and I'm thankful that, I am a workingpreneur right now. I have a
Mm.
full-time job and then I'm go up girling in the evenings. But I mean, if I didn't have this dream that I was living, and I would probably like I'd be like, nope, I can't do it. I
Mhm.
can't. I can't just be tied to somebody else's job. I can't make money for somebody else for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's a real thing for people. And I do think that more often in the Black community is
Mhm.
definitely because we definitely have to carry. Because I always remember, like, even my in-laws, like, even when you're transitioning just jobs,
Yeah.
it'll be, I mean, are you sure? Are you
Yeah.
sure it's gonna be better over there?
Like, you changing jobs again? It's like that's like
Like, I was there.
it's just
I was there for 5 years. I mean, how
yeah.
long do you want me to stay there? Like,
Yeah, it's just like, you
it's
need to
not
keep a job.
working.
Yes, you need to keep a job. That's what you need to do. I was
Yeah.
just like, "Okay. All right. I get you. All right, pop, pop. All right." Just
Right.
yeah. It's just
'Cause I mean, like, cause I know I heard, well, the grass isn't always green on the other side. You know what?
yeah.
Imma take this chance.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like, let's just agree to disagree that in your time, and I understand you wouldn't have done it. Like, in
Yep.
your time, it was about being, loyal for till the end until they walked you out the door with your medal and your
Yeah.
plaque and all that. But no, we live in a different time. So
Yeah.
yes, I definitely understand that.
It's
Now,
so funny. Yep.
what I would like to talk about is career joy
Yes. It's my
because
favorite thing.
it exists, and I want you to tell us how you define it.
Yeah. So I love talking about this because it like aligns like with my values. Like I did like this values assessment for myself last year, and I
Mhm,
didn't realize like joy was a value of mine, but like it deeply is a value of mine.
mhm,
And I think that there
mhm,
is no, I don't think I know that there's a distinction between happiness and joy.
mhm.
Happiness is like this momentary, like I had a piece of candy. Yes, it's not. It's yes, it's fleeting. It's just momentary. It's not. But joy is like that thing
Mhm.
that like dang, like not everything is all right, but like
Yeah,
it's okay. Like
yeah.
it's like peace in your soul. It's that Selah
Mhm,
moment, right?
mhm,
And so
mhm,
how I define like career joy is like a profound sense of fulfillment and
mhm,
contentment in what somebody chooses to do for their occupation. Like it's that
mhm.
harmonious alignment between self and what you do for work, right? Where you can
Yes.
um where you feel like that your inner being, your innermost self is like you're feeling like on top of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like there is um yeah, it's like soul satisfying happiness. It's that deep
Yes.
stuff. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
I
that's how
felt
I
that.
defined it. Yeah.
I felt that because because in 2020, I think also is a time where I was like, I want to feel endless joy.
Mm,
I
mm,
no longer want to be happy because
mm,
I remember I did a episode about joy, and the guy that I interviewed, I was like, yeah, because happiness is fleeting. You
mhm.
could be happy one moment and then something happens and then you're sad. But
Yeah.
when you're filled with joy, it's like you said, there is a peace about your soul. And
Yep.
it doesn't matter. Things can come. They can be, it could be like a bad, like this happened and it wasn't so great. But
Yep.
at the core of your being, and I think the other thing that you said that really aligns to that is the values. When
Hmm.
something aligns to your value system, it's like really unshakable.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like stuff is gonna happen. You be like, okay, but you
Yep.
know what? We still good over here.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And because the other side of that I talk to people about, and there's people that are experiencing career despair that they wouldn't categorize it as that.
Mm.
And my clients have literally like they have said everything but despair, but I'm like, you are describing despair. You're describing like despair. It's like, and it's a pendulum, right? Or a pendulum.
Uh-huh.
It's a spectrum. It's not something that you're gonna be like, I am, I'm either joyful or I'm in despair. It's like
Hmm.
career despair, you can feel inklings of it, parts of it, right? Seasons of it.
Right.
But career despair is like that emotional and psychological distress where
Hmm.
like it's in the context of your job where you it's like deeply rooted and persistent where you're unfulfilled. Your career feels stagnant. What you're doing feels stagnant. It almost feels meaningless, unchangeable. Um, and it makes it worse that you spent so much time, energy, and I say particularly for Black folks, persevering all of the isms,
Hmm.
microaggressions, and so on in the
Hmm.
workplace. And you're like, damn, like that's it. Like that's it. You're like it's like, am I really gonna give up this money or this place or like
Yeah.
whatever? You just like, and you just endure, but like you're
Yeah.
miserable, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's the part where I work with people on is like, okay, have you ever looked for a job or searched for a job through the lens of your values? Like, have
Hmm.
you ever said, like, my values are authenticity, community, joy, and
Hmm.
equity, right? So if
Yes.
I'm looking for a job, I'm going to make sure that they have those things,
Yeah.
most of those things, the most important one of those things. Because if they don't, then I'm going to eventually be unhappy, eventually be
It's
unsatisfied.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've
Yeah.
got to not ignore the red flags.
Hmm.
And I
Yes.
think I think that's like that's a good lead into this next question of like how can you avoid the bad jobs?
Mm,
Because I mean they exist, they're there,
yes.
and a lot of times we are so sometimes you can be so desperate to get out of one situation that
Yep.
you just walk through another door of what eventually will be despair.
Yeah. That's a really good question. So, uh, and that's why I always before I don't tell anybody just quit anymore,
Mhm.
unless there's a caveat with that. Unless like you are in harm's way, right? Psychological,
Right.
mental, sometimes even
Mhm.
physical, right? And
Mhm.
even still, I will coach people on how to address that, getting the right
Mhm.
support on that, and even like there's like medical leave, PTO, depending on the state where you're
Mhm.
at. But anyways, there's options for that to like make sure that you're still getting some income to come
Mhm.
in. Um, but like developing an exit strategy, that's all. That's what I work on with
Yeah.
folks now. But
Yeah.
avoiding the noticing the red flags um and avoiding bad jobs. Like I think ultimately, as you said, Kyra, like you can't avoid a bad job. Like you might even everything might check through,
Mhm.
um, and you still might have a negative experience. I have one client who who I was working with her, um, and she ended up getting a job pretty quickly. Like, and she was like, she
Mhm.
was, I'm not. She went from like, oh, I'm not. My skills aren't transfer. I'm not hireable. Like she literally said this in our vibe call, and going to like, I'm running this department. I'm building this thing from the ground up. They're lucky I'm here. As you know, what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying. But it was one of the most, and we kept working together. It was one of the most toxic work environments and work experience that I've ever heard, like ever heard.
Mm.
I've never heard such a toxic work environment, where the executive director is screaming at her, telling her to shut
Mm.
up,
Oh, wow.
and sent her husband over to her house, her home residence, and dropped off materials for an event that
Oh
was
my
not her
goodness.
responsibility. It's incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
This is real. And so what she actually told me, and I didn't hear from her for a few weeks. What she told me was that, Jonathan, I'm actually incredibly proud. I'm proud of myself because I am able to um I was able to basically put up those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went to another job and I left that job 3 months in. She didn't stay. She said, I would have stayed before. I would have stayed before
Mm-hmm.
and thought something was wrong with me. So you can't avoid them. It happens. But what I would say is like knowing your values and knowing what is core to who you are will
Mm-hmm.
actually help your decision making and help you see in job descriptions what you actually can do and also that
Mm-hmm.
you want to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with somebody the other day where I like before I would make job decisions intellectually. Money's good, benefits are good, I can do the job, boom.
Right. Yeah.
Which is normally how folks will do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at a job description, look at a company through the lens of your values, you're actually able to better understand what that probably have a better idea of what that company is probably going to stand for and if it aligns to
Mm-hmm.
who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't be my authentic self, i.e., if I'm in a job where I have to wear a suit all the time, I have to go in, I'm working with people that like I don't necessarily want to work with. Like I used to work in
Right.
Orange County working with old white men. I don't want to do that. Like so
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. I would love to work with folks around
Yeah.
my age. I want to work with black folks too. So like I know that job's not for me. I know that that's not probably
Right.
going to be for me. There's
Mm-hmm.
also language in job descriptions that could tell you
Mm-hmm.
self-starter, has tough skin, highly productive, all these there's different language that folks use to kind of
Work
like
to death. Yeah.
yes, yeah, that'll like prime you and make you think of like, oh, like yeah, like a hustle, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like you gotta pay
Entre-
attention to those.
I'm sorry, but entrepreneurial.
Yes, yeah. Like what?
If that's not the biggest setup, I mean, I'm just
Yeah. Yeah. There's just like different red flags like that. And then question askings. So say like when you go into an interview, and I'm pretty sure you've said this to people because I know I say it all the time. You are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing.
yes.
And so like if that's why having an exit strategy and a purposeful and intentional transition plan is really crucial because you can make decisions that are going to best benefit you. And you don't have to
Right.
make decisions out of desperation. And
Yeah.
so, um, like you can ask questions that are framed to your benefit. Like, all
Mhm.
right, cool. Tell me more about how you set this individual up for success in this role.
Mhm.
What like
Mhm.
scaffolding or support in the organization and you as a
Mhm.
manager have for me to thrive in this role, right?
Mhm.
What's your leadership style? Different things
Yes.
like that. I'm like rambling on, but there's so many different
Oh, no,
things that
no.
like yeah,
This is so important.
yeah,
This right here is so important because it is about people don't usually do the interviewing because they're
mm,
just thinking, I'm there, I'm trying, like you said, because a lot of people are making decisions based on despair and they're ready
mhm,
to get out and they're desperate.
yeah,
So they're just willing to go along to get along so I can get that job and that money and move. But no, asking one of my favorite questions to ask when I'm interviewing and when I've been in interviews over these last few years, it's been okay, so let's talk about how do we come up with business priorities and goals?
mm,
Like, who is responsible for those? And then if we have a shift, what does that look like? What is the
mhm,
process of the change?
yeah,
Because when we just like reacting to everything and this happened today, so then we stop all the work and do that. And then we
mhm,
stop all the work and do this. And like those things are important. And then also asking about leadership's involvement
yeah,
in a day-to-day activity. Now, are leaders working on growing the business? Are leaders working on strategy and planning? Or are leaders down in the minutia?
yeah.
As if the leaders are down in minutia, I don't want 'em.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah, that's too much. Y'all got big. You should be, anyways.
I
Yeah,
need you to be up. I need you to be over there thinking about strategy planning. Like,
yeah,
and I like to ask that question, like, what is the strategy process? Like, who works on strategy? How is it crafted? How often, how long does it take? And how is it delivered to the organization? Because what you can't do is tell me we in the process of working on it and we on the process and we still in the process. And then when you deliver it, it's not delivered on any form of paper,
Yep.
presentation, or anything. You just talking at me.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but that's not strategy.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. And things that came up when you were came up for me when you said that was that like even stuff is like, what's your communication style? Because this is my
Yes.
communication style. So how do you communicate? That's
Mhm.
one. The other piece is or even communication style within the organization, because
Mhm.
you don't
Mhm.
want to have to like go into a space and then you already have to like navigate and learn like the language and
Yeah.
lingo of the space. But like
Right.
if they're not an emailer or something like that, and you've never been in a company where like they've done like Slack or
Yeah.
Teams
Yeah.
or whatever, it's a tough switch. I
Mhm.
don't know. Um, I mean, shout out to AIM if ever anybody remembers that.
Wow.
Yeah, Yahoo Messenger or something. But I would say like there's stuff like that. Or what what happens if I fail in this role? Like, what is the conversations like
Mhm.
in that,
Mhm. Yeah.
because that'll tell you a lot about that.
Yeah.
Actually, I take back the other question I said about support, right? Because
Mhm.
that'll tell you a lot about
Mhm.
the kind of conversations that they'll have with you,
Mhm.
what levels of support to help you succeed. If you want to, and you could
Mhm.
have another, like, you could use that support question as a follow up. Um, it tells you about their
Mhm.
manager style, their leadership style,
Mhm.
right? Because I'll tell you this right now, like I'm building a curriculum on psychological safety. And the interesting thing that I'm doing so much research on it, and like the amount of times that I've seen psychologically, I'm not going to label them psychologically unsafe leaders, but I've
Mhm.
seen leaders exhibit psychologically unsafe leadership because they were insecure or didn't know how to like coach or like train or have a conversation with another human
Yes.
being. It's just like you didn't produce. This is the
Yeah.
repercussions. That's not going to solve the problem. That's actually going
Right.
to produce fear and
Mhm.
insecurity
Mhm.
and anxiety for me as an
Mhm.
individual and us as a team. Right. So how do we be solution oriented, not just like
Yes.
focused on where I messed up? So that's a good question to ask. And I
Yes.
think having the confidence to ask these questions, if you want to have
Mhm.
a great work experience, is awesome. And anybody that gets offended by these questions, that
Yes.
that tells you
You
everything you need
yeah,
to know.
that tells you you just need to say, "You know what? I'm all right, I'm out. Thank you, but I'm out." Because yeah, that is so true. That is so true. So I always just I always tell people like it's just not you trying to get a job with them. They should be trying to, embrace they should be wanting you to say, "Oh yeah, I really want to go there and
Yep.
work. I want to be a part of that organization." But okay, now this is like my favorite topic, right?
Mm.
What happens when, you dating the company's representative? Like it's the
Yep.
representative, but then after a while, the real person is like, ta-da!
Yeah.
Like, ta-da! Then the
Yeah.
rose-colored glasses, they ain't rosy no more, they
Yep.
foggy. Like, how does one deal in those scenarios?
Yeah. So again, I don't tell anybody to just quit anymore, right?
Mhm,
Because like you don't I don't know. It could be, see, it's nuance, right? There could be all kinds of things
mhm,
that happen in that situation. And so the first thing I would say is do what is like best for your safety and emotional
mhm,
well-being, mental well-being, so on and so forth.
mhm,
But the second part of that I would say is like, all right, let us go. And I'm gonna go back to when I used to work at the Genius Bar when I was in grad school at
mhm,
Apple. When I was helping people fix their phones and everything like that. They taught us to go to least invasive to most invasive, right?
mhm,
And I think I do the same kind of like mode of thinking. And so the first one is like, okay, the situation has changed, stuff is happening, something in your spirit, your soul, your gut, your intuition is like on.
mhm,
So then it's like, all right, you got to ask the question, where is this coming from? Right?
mhm,
Is it institutional? Is it systemic? Is it from your direct supervisor? Is it the coworkers? Like, where is it coming from?
right.
And who do you have to have a conversation with? If is a conversation possible? Can
Mhm,
can something change with like just addressing it? one-to-one or bringing it up in some way, right?
Mhm.
If that is not possible, or if that doesn't that isn't that doesn't fix it, then the next piece is like, all right, okay, what boundaries do you need to set? And when I say boundaries, I mean like, all right, if this is really bad to the point where you're starting to think like, oh, I can't stay here, like I can't be here.
Mhm.
Um, but we also know that like healthcare is tied to our work. We got
Mhm.
bills, we're supporting family, all kinds of things, right?
Mhm.
So it's like
Mhm.
you got to set the appropriate boundaries for yourself emotionally. So those
Mhm.
internal boundaries as well as external boundaries.
Right.
Um, removing removing that Slack and everything like that off your phone. Um,
Mhm.
uh, um, only being responsible or only like doing work within work hours. I don't care what the work culture is. This is what I'm doing. This is on the job description.
Mhm.
I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
And then internally, like internal boundaries, like in your mind, there's like a switch that occurs. It's like, this is a job for a paycheck. This is a
Mhm.
job for a paycheck. Because when you detach in that way, it actually does alleviate a ton of stress.
Mhm.
Like, are you honestly thinking about it, talking about it um, with people? Then I would say that you probably need to like create a container and a space,
Mhm.
whether it's a therapist or a trusted person or a coach, where you're
Mhm.
able to process these things out loud with, and then just like, I did that, and then
Yeah.
move on and just do
Yeah.
something that brings you joy and happiness. And then the
Mhm.
third piece is like, all right, you need to create a strategy. Like
Mhm.
it's time to go. If it's like, if none of those things work, if it's really starting to impact, it's no way to like, your
Mhm.
boundaries are being violated over and over again. Now it's
Mhm.
time to like, now it's time to create an exit strategy, which
Mhm.
would be like, you're still doing all those other things,
Right. True.
but then you're like, all right, now it's time to like work with a coach or, you know, continuously updating my job resume, stuff like
Mhm.
that, networking, all those different
Mhm.
things, which are things you should already continuously be doing. But I would say
Right.
like it's more purposeful. It's
Yeah.
more
It's
intentional
good.
now.
Yes. And I agree. I think all of those are great. And I definitely agree with you. Like listen to like your intuition won't steer you wrong. Like when
Mhm.
you know, and like even to go back to your client who you said, after 3 months, they were like, nope, I'm leaving.
Yep.
Like it is okay. And I think a lot of times people like to say, oh, like I failed because that didn't work out. No, it's okay. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think that it shows a lot of strength for people who no longer are willing to suffer and put themselves in that type of situation. Like it's okay because you know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much a person like within the first 3 months of a job, I know if we're gonna be good or if it's gonna be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see in those 3 months, like yes, when I was younger, I like fought through, I pushed through to stay. I'm like, nope, I got this, I got this. I got this a challenge.
Yep.
Now that I'm older, I'm like, no, thank you.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
you don't have to do this. So I think that's so key for people.
Yep. So true.
So, all right. So let's just shift for a minute to talk about, how we as, Black people, what are your thoughts on, professionalism and how it doesn't always help us to move up the ladder in our careers?
Mm. So folks are not going. So I feel like there's like also a generational like
Hmm.
divide on the idea of professionalism. I think I think it. I really don't care. They could talk to
We
me about it.
welcome all points of
Yeah,
views here. So,
I'm standing on it 10 toes down. Professionalism is like legitimately tied to like this idea of like respectability politics. It's tied to an idea of like an idea of what professional is supposed to be.
hmm
And when we think back to um, the foundations of what professional, business person,
hmm
business owner, all these different things is not a Black person. It
hmm
really isn't. It's a white man,
hmm
wealthy white man, um,
hmm
who went to good schools, who grew up in suburbia, all those different things, right? Those ideas are
hmm
not us. And so, who defines professionalism, right? When I get
right.
into like
Yeah.
the more like esoteric or ethereal things, like who defines professionalism? What
hmm
does being a professional even mean?
hmm
Um, And so when I say like professionalism, trying to act professional, actually is not going to help black
Mhm.
black folks like advance or even like get a lot of the things that we want or need to thrive. That's what I'm saying. Like us becoming a thing, me
Mhm.
trying to be Steve or me trying to be Tom, like it's not gonna
Mhm.
work. Like it will never work. And I tried it for a long time and it did not work, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you are at the end of the day, you are still black in the societal um
Mhm.
and historical context. It does exist. That is not actually putting us in a victim like state of being. That's not
Mhm.
saying like we can't advance because like we're black. Like that's actually I'm actually like being more authentic and honest, saying that like I don't want to conform to a mold that like never I was
Exactly.
never
Yeah.
going to fit in ever, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so like when I say when so now when I tell folks um is that like my heart's passion and goal um, for myself and hopefully for the clients that I work with is that like
Mhm.
when you walk into a space, you have the confidence to be who you as
It
much as you want to be
yes.
in that space, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
recognize that, particularly for Black women, that it's not necessarily safe to like bring all of yourself to work. And I would never recommend anybody to do that because like it doesn't matter what happens, like your career, all those different things like are impacted, right? Isms still
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah.
And so what I do say by that is like it just doesn't work. Like professionalism, who defines it? What is it?
Mhm.
It wasn't defined by us. And when we think about professional, there is an image that we have of that in that mind.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and oftentimes when people say that is like clean up your language. Well, I don't want to get like super nerdy with it because there's like so many studies and stuff like that. But like
Mhm.
language and dress, attire, all these different things are tied to um,
Mhm.
um, wealth, uh,
Mhm.
intelligence, different things like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think we have to take into context um, where our job is. What does it mean to
Mhm.
be professional? What does it mean to
Mhm.
be in that space and work in that space? Is my attire actually impacting my ability to do my job? Absolutely not. Is my
Right.
hair impacting my ability to do my job? Absolutely not. So
Absolutely not.
yeah. So
It's
yeah.
not, but to your point, yes, there are lots of aggressions and isms and things that exist that put us into these boxes of where we have to feel like, oh my gosh, well, I mean, I can remember when I was at one of my jobs. I work in a remote environment now, so my hair can look like, I also I'm at a stage in life where I don't care.
Yeah.
You getting Kyra.
Yeah.
And so I remember being somewhere and I was like, oh man, for a while I was like, oh, I don't know. Should I wear my braids? Like, should I
Mm,
wear my hair braided? And it was, and so I eventually was just like, you know what, I am. And of
yep.
course it was all the things that come with, oh my gosh, let me see your hair. Can I tell? No, no, you
Yes.
cannot. Like,
Yeah.
no, you cannot. I do not need you to touch my hair. But it was just those different things. And like you said, when we have to deal with enough of like when you have someone, when you're just simply having what I consider just a conversation. I mean,
Mm,
people are allowed to not see things the same way.
yeah.
And so that fuels what I feel like is a conversation. But
Mm,
I had someone to say to me, well, I was going to send you a note about this, but I didn't want to get into a back and forth with you. So I thought that I would, just save it for our meeting. And I went, wow, that's quite interesting that
hmm
it would be a back and forth because I might have an opinion that differed from yours.
Yep.
But it was just in that language
hmm
the language told me how you perceive me. It's
hmm
like, oh, you perceive me that I'm, I guess, almost like combative now.
Mm,
And I was like, okay, I got you. Okay.
yeah.
So it's just there are these all these things, and you're right. You can do all of the things that are considered the things that dressing a certain way, showing up a certain way, and it's still ultimately in some. I'm not saying in all environments. In some environments, it will still not be enough because at the end of the day, people still see first. You see this.
Yep.
And, and I mean, I've had positions where I've had someone, well, I don't know, like, how you're going to present to the customer. What do you mean you don't know how I'm going to present to the customer? I mean,
Yeah.
how do I present to you? How have I been presenting all this time when I'm presenting and doing the work for you that you take and show to the customers?
Hmm.
So, and then, and I remember by the time I was leaving that organization, it was like, oh, I want you to present to this client and this customer. No, thank you. I'm good.
Hmm.
I'll pass. I'll
Yep.
pass. I'll go to the next place that, doesn't question whether or not I can speak proper English in front of
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, AAV, Ebonics, whatever you want to call it, is a form, like it's a language. Like that is language, right? And so it's so interesting. Yeah, kind of to your point, it's really, really interesting. Like even my competency, my status at work, like, I've had people be like, all right, so where's the manager? I'm like, I'm the manager. Yeah, yeah. Like who has final say on that? That's me, actually. I have final
Right.
say
Yeah.
on this. So it's like I totally get it. And whether because I have a younger looking face, like I get it, or it's my
Yeah.
bites or whatever, or a combination of both. I
Yeah.
think I've just gotten to a place where it's like, do you see my humanity or not? Because
Hmm.
like if I'm here present in front of you doing the job that I was hired to do because I was hired to do this job, let me do
Right.
my job, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I'll say about that.
So much. No, I love it. I love it. I appreciate,
Yeah.
like I said here, like we're not afraid of tough conversations. It's education for people.
Yeah.
And I think if anybody who is listening, like you have people who look like Jonathan and I that you call friends or that you work with, I mean, then you should want to try and understand, all sides of where people might be coming from, all points of view. So,
Hmm.
awesome. Oh my gosh, this has been such a great conversation. And I
Yeah.
know like I'm like I am looking at time. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so let's talk about the how people can work with you and how they can connect to you.
Yeah. So the my website is heyjonathandumas.com. It's Hey Jonathan. That's JONTHAND as in dog UMAS S as in Sam.com. You can find me and sign up for my email newsletter where I actually have a career journey roadmap where I walk through. I have an email course where I walk people through um, how to navigate from career despair to career joy. And it's a 5 steps. Um, I really, really love that. And I put on a workshop every other month for that. So that's how you keep up with me there.
Mhm.
But I also am most active on LinkedIn, Jonathan L. Dumas. You see a tall, smiling black man. That's going to be me. But I'm most active there. So that's how folks can work with me. I am, yeah, hmm, I'm trying to I really like love helping people like transition. Like
Mhm.
I think it's such a honestly, it's like a really vulnerable time. Like
Mhm.
I think we underestimate sometimes like how much work impacts our lives.
Mhm.
And like I've like multiple times like had clients like just sobbing in front of me because of their
Mhm.
experience, because of like
Mhm.
all of the stuff that they're carrying. Um and like I think that folks just deserve to be
Mhm.
like what they do, like not be
Yes.
miserable.
Yes.
Um and I think
Thank
70 if you're landing at 75% like where you're experiencing joy in work, you're that's actually an A. Like it's because you're not gonna 100% I created my job and I do not like 100% of the stuff I do. So yeah.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go through quickly three things with Jonathan. I'm going to ask you three questions.
Okay.
Going to help us get to know you a little bit better. Number one is my absolute favorite question to ask people. How do you start and end the day?
Yes. Okay. Start the day. I get up and I don't have coffee anymore, so I either have tea. And right now, I've been playing around. I have like lemon, like hot water lemon, so like
Mhm.
or warm water with lemon. That's what I've been drinking because I can't have coffee with my medication. And I would like to put on like lo-fi music while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
in the morning, and I just like make breakfast with lo-fi music. I don't like to have I don't start with social media. I don't start with like news or a podcast. I start with
Mhm.
just some lo-fi music to just enjoy the time. And
Mhm.
then uh, I like to look at my plants because I have like 25 plants. So I, got some really cool plants. So I do that.
Mhm.
And then I start my work day. And then how I end my day is like I usually shut off my phone because we don't sleep with our phones in our room.
Mhm.
And then, brush my teeth, maybe wash my face, get in my comfy clothes, shut it down. And then
Mhm.
I love like sci-fi or like um, fantasy novels. So I read a
Mhm.
lot of those. So I close out the day with like just reading a book and just like take
Nice.
myself to another world before I fall asleep. Yeah.
I
So that's
like
how
it.
I do it.
I like it, and I love lo-fi. Okay,
Yes. So good.
what's a goal or intention that you set for yourself this year?
Goal or intention. Hmm. Oh, it's right here. I have a notepad. I have a note posted on my monitor. I want to be more courageous. Um, and hold on, I'm going to phrase that right. I am going to step into, I intend to be more courageous and daring in experimentation, trying things,
Mhm.
doing things that scare me a little bit. Um, yeah, I don't want to allow that inner critic to
Mhm.
dictate how I move and live.
Mhm.
And I want to show my inner critic, his name is Johnny. He's 12 years old. He's my middle school self. That like you don't have to be scared or anxious all the time. That you can do
Mhm.
something that scares you,
Mhm.
um, and be amazing at it. And even if you're not, like you did it. So I just want
Right.
to show him how to be courageous. Yeah. So that's it.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love it. And last, what is inspiring you right now?
So in our neighborhood, there is a random chicken that has like just shown up, like just a random chicken. And I don't live in like the country. I live I live in like a sort of city, like almost north of like
Mhm.
city. And so it's very odd that there's just a chicken randomly. And there's houses that like potentially could have a coop, but like nobody has come to claim this chicken.
Mhm.
What's cool is that like neighbors in my building, neighbors next door, neighbors across the street, we all
Mhm.
care for this daggone chicken. Her name is Hey Hey.
Oh.
And so like and so like she lives in the back of our like balcony area. And she just like,
Mhm.
roosts there and
Oh.
like we feed her and stuff like that. So it's been like really cool. Like that has shown me that, despite so many things that are happening in the world that
Mhm.
would have you believe that like people suck, that humanity is evil, yada yada yada, is that
Mhm.
like this chicken has like brought us together.
I love that.
And we had like neighbors over for dinner and stuff like that. It was such a good time. So all kinds of stuff like that. So that's what I would say.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing this space with me today and the community. It has been an absolute pleasure. But I'm going to ask you one more thing before I let you go. Can you please leave the audience with 3 things you'd like for them to take away from this conversation?
Yeah. All right. I'll be brief because I know I'm a talker. I would say, the first thing is that if you want something to change in your life and you are doubting it, I want to remind you that that little inkling, that desire for change, that desire for better for yourself, like it matters and that you have every right to go for it. That's the first one. The second thing is something that came up earlier in my mind, but that I'm intentional about specifically working with Black millennials, Black folks in general. If anybody else
Mhm.
resonates with the message, that's cool. But Black people in particular, about experiencing career joy is because joy is our birthright. Like
Mhm.
our ancestors desired and dreamed and hoped that we would experience far greater than they've ever experienced. And so I think even though we have come far, but not far enough, I would say
Right.
that, Black folks deserve to be joyful, experience joy.
Mhm.
And then the last piece is, gosh, keep that resume updated, fam. Like always. That's all I would say. That's all I would say.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for those. I love it because they were from the heart,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. So, well, my friend, you can always come back here.
Yeah. This was fun.
Always come back and see us in the future. It was such a great conversation. I wish you all the success and definitely applaud you and want to hear more about the chicken because I love that the chicken has brought this neighborhood together and y'all are out here caring for a chicken.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of it, Kyra. It's pretty hilarious.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.